All right. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. It is Dina Shepard with Care Assurance, and today we are going to talk about private duty home care's role in chronic care management. And I think this is a very important topic to discuss and talk about because a lot of times I think home care providers do not realize how important they are in the overall care and safety to their clients. So we are just going to touch on some key points, some things that you all can take away today and start doing within your agency to really help you when it comes down to chronic care management. So just to give a brief description as to what chronic care management is, it is, in short, the oversight and education by healthcare providers, which is yourself as a private duty home care agency, to help individuals with chronic disease. So as you can see, that description is very simple. It's not extensive. It's not anything that requires you to be a physician or anything complicated like that. It is just someone that is in the healthcare field that has a healthcare understanding that's providing healthcare, and they provide oversight and education to those with chronic diseases. So again, that definitely falls under what you all do as non-medical home care providers. You all are a part of the healthcare team for your clients, okay? So now we're going to go over some common chronic diseases. Now, this is not a all-inclusive list. This is just some very common diseases that we see within the elderly. So we're looking at heart disease, and that can be coronary artery disease. Congestive heart failure falls under that. Diabetes, usually with seniors, we're looking at type 2 diabetes. That's usually something that we see later in life. Typically can be controlled with diet and exercise, but in more recent times, we're seeing type 2 diabetics, they're taking insulin, they're taking oral medications and insulin. So diet oversight for diabetes is extremely important, but that is one of the chronic illnesses and diseases that we're seeing. High blood pressure is another big one. I'm sure we probably all know someone within our own personal circle that is dealing with diabetes, that's dealing with high blood pressure. High cholesterol, arthritis, kidney disease, dementia, and COPD. And there's another one I'm going to add. Hi, someone just came on. If you could just please mute yourself, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much. Another one I'm going to add to this is falls. Even though it's not necessarily a disease, it's something that we see often. It can be a chronic situation for seniors, and I think it's something that we need to add to the list when we're looking at chronic care management. A lot of times falls are a result to one of these illnesses that we're seeing, or it could be a result to sometimes hearing or other disease processes, but I think it's very important to add falls to chronic care list. There are some statistics for you guys. There's 68% of seniors, individuals 65 years and older, that are dealing with 2 or more chronic diseases, okay? So that is 65% of people that are age 65 and older that are dealing with 2 or more of these diagnoses that I listed, or different ones. 43% of people 65 and older are dealing with 3 or more chronic medical conditions, okay? So again, it could be from this list or other chronic conditions. So there's 43% of people that are dealing with 3 or more conditions. So you are going to, the likelihood that you're going to meet someone that needs home care services and that is dealing with chronic care issues is extremely high. So it's extremely important if you want to grow your agency, you want to have an agency that's able to meet the needs of the demographic that you serve, that you start thinking about ways to incorporate chronic care management into your business. So there are 5 areas that I want to discuss with you guys this afternoon when it comes down to implementing chronic care services and chronic care management in your private duty home care agency, okay? So number 1 is going to be identify. Before you can start providing any form of care to your clients, whether they're chronic care or not, you need to start with a good discovery process, and that is going to be your in-home meeting, your needs assessment. You need to make sure when you are conducting a needs assessment in the home that not only are you getting the basic information such as what does your client need help with during the day or what their normal routine is, but you want to make sure that you are doing a thorough history of your client, okay? So one of the things that you want to make sure you are reviewing is all medical diagnosis, whether they're considered active or inactive medical diagnosis. You want to get a history from the client. You want to make sure if there is an involved responsible party that they are present, especially if this is someone that is dealing with a lot of health challenges. You want to make sure that there's a responsible person that is present at the needs assessment or that you can contact to verify this information so that you have a full and clear picture as to the medical needs of your potential client, okay? So you want to review any kind of medical records they have available. Let's say they just got out of the hospital, they just got home from rehab. Take a look at that discharge paperwork. That discharge paperwork is going to tell you a lot of pertinent information that you can use when you are developing and completing the needs assessment. So usually it's going to have all of the medical diagnosis. It will tell you why that individual was in the hospital or in rehab. It's going to have medications that they're taking, and it's also going to have any kind of discharge instructions that the client needs to follow. And a little later on, we'll talk about care coordination and how you can be a part of that piece as well. But make sure you're looking at any kind of medical records that are available. Again, you want to get a good history from the client and the family, and you want to review medications. And so this comes from some experience. You will go into a home to do a needs assessment, and you'll say, "Hi, Miss Jones, it's, Dina with ABC Home Care. I'm here to do your needs assessment. Tell me a little bit about your health." "Oh, I'm okay. I don't have any problems." They don't have any diagnosis. And then you look on the table and they have about 20 pill bottles and all kinds of things on the table. So you want to make sure that you take the time to do proper discovery, okay? Even though you are not a skilled provider, you still need to know the medications. The medications will be able to tell you what conditions this client is dealing with. So if you ask them, "Oh, do you have," like I had a client a couple years ago as an example. This is a good example. I asked her if she had diabetes. I'm going through kind of a list of common chronic medical conditions because she didn't have any documentation. I'm trying to develop a history to see what this client had going on. So I asked her, I said, "Do you have high blood pressure?" She's like, "No, I don't have any of that." I said, "Okay. Do you have high cholesterol?" "No, I don't have any of that." I said, "Do you have diabetes?" She said, "No, I don't have diabetes." So I'm thinking, this is really odd because I see all this medication and she doesn't have anything. So I start looking through her medication, and here's a medication for high blood pressure, and here's a medication for diabetes. And so I asked her about the diabetic medication, and she goes, "Oh, my sugar? Well, yeah, I have high sugar." So it was a matter of terminology for her, but it just shows the importance of doing due diligence when you are in the needs assessment, because something as simple as vocabulary and how she called the disease process one word versus the correct medical term could have totally changed how the needs assessment was captured. It would have totally changed the information received during that needs assessment. I would have missed that if I had not taken the time to look at her medications. And even if you are an owner, let's say you are in a state where you don't necessarily need a nurse to go out and to perform the assessment, it's still good for you to take down these medications, do some research, ask questions, okay? Very, very important. So along with looking at medications, now is the time also to get a list of any involved healthcare providers that are involved in the care of the client. So if it's a doctor, if they have home health, if they have hospice, whomever they have, you want to make sure you're collecting that information, because you want to position yourself as an intricate part of their care team. So you need to know who is involved. You never know when you need to make a phone call or just have this information for reference. So very important that you gather that information during your needs assessment. So step number 2 that you want to consider is, once you get that needs assessment, you want to make sure that you're developing a care plan that's going to meet the needs of the client, okay? So let's say we're dealing with someone that has diabetes and they're on a special diet. You want to make sure on the care plan you have identified what that special diet consists of. You want to ask questions, okay? What does that special diet mean? If there's any kind of confusion, get the families involved, ask the family if they can get some clarification from the doctor and provide that to you as to what exactly that diet means, especially if your agency is going to be responsible for meal preparation, going shopping. You want to make sure that your team is educated and able to support the client and the family. So you, as the agency owner and administrator, you want to make sure that you're supporting your team by having good, thorough information to provide them when you're creating that care plan, because they're going to be working from that care plan. Mobility, you want to make sure you address any kind of mobility needs that the client may have. If they are a frequent faller, what goes on before a fall happens? Are they incontinent? Is there an issue with hearing? Is there an issue with dizziness? Is it after they take medications? Are they unsure why they are falling? When's the last time they had a fall? Do they use any kind of adaptive devices? These are all very important pieces of information to gather when you're looking at the needs of mobility, okay? Because it all, like I said earlier, works hand in hand. A lot of times fall situations can happen due to one of these chronic illnesses. It could be another reason. And you want to make sure that you're able to gather as much information and track these things. So if the family comes to you and they're taking their loved one to the physician, or if you recommend that this individual needs to go to a physician, you can have your home care notes be a part of that physician visit, be a part of that physician's assessment process. So that is why it is very important that you're monitoring these things, because again, you're a very, very important part of that chronic care management. Medication reminders is a great way to incorporate when you're looking at chronic care management. A lot of times people are non-compliant with their medications. Either they're not taking their medications at all, they're not taking their medications, or they're not taking their medications the right way. So you want to make sure that if you're providing medication reminders, that you stress to your team, your caregiver that is out in the field, it is very important for them to make sure they're providing the reminders and that they're communicating any kind of non-compliance of medication. So if this client is saying they're not taking their medication, train your staff to be investigators. Have your staff automatically be in the mindset to say, well, why are you not taking your medication, Miss Jones? It could be a matter of side effects. Perhaps Miss Jones is dealing with side effects from the medication and has not expressed that to anyone. No one ever asked. She just didn't take her medication and that was it. So if that's the case, and it's a matter of side effects, then you can communicate that to the family. The family can talk to the physician and see if there's an alternative medication that this client can use so that they're getting treatment, they're handling any kind of chronic condition that they're dealing with, and they're not just avoiding medication altogether. Okay. Number 3 is staff education, which I've touched on in the past 2 points. You want to make sure that you're training your staff on the basic understandings of chronic care challenges for seniors. You don't have to give them extensive training on each chronic condition, but it's very important for your staff to have a basic understanding of what these chronic conditions are, because these are issues that seniors are dealing with on a daily basis. You are having your caregivers care for people that are dealing with these chronic conditions. So they need to have a basic understanding. So this needs to be a part of your orientation training. This needs to be a part of your continuous training. And if you are assigning a new client to a staff, you want to make sure you provide your staff with some training. Train them on any kind of medical conditions that are going on with this employee, with this, client. Make sure that you go over the care plan with each and every new client and newly assigned caregiver that you have, so that your staff has the tools in hand, they have the understanding and the education on how to provide excellent care for this individual. Okay, so very, very important that you provide your staff with continuous training. Number 4 is care coordination. So we talked about, making sure you gather information of physicians and other care providers. Again, you want to make sure that you are an active member of your client's care team. You need to know who is involved and you need to coordinate this. So ways that you can do that, you can make sure that you have a consent form that your clients can sign that allows you to be able to talk to these providers and find out from the providers if they need anything in particular from you or from the client to release information. You want to make sure you have all of that done during the needs assessment process and during your admission steps, so that if anything comes up, you already have that consent, you develop that relationship, okay? It's a great opportunity for you, especially if you are a growing agency and you're looking to get out there and make connections. When you have a new client come on board, and if they have home health or hospice or whomever involved, it's a great opportunity to give them a call and just introduce yourself and let them know that you are now engaged in the care and oversight of Miss Jones, and you just wanted to take a moment to introduce yourself. So make sure you put yourself in the middle of the team. Don't wait for people to come to you and contact you, but put yourself in the middle of the team. Let them know, this is who I am. I'm here to work with you all and make sure that this client is able to stay at home safely, stay out of the hospital. Okay, so some examples of who you would want to talk to and coordinate with. If you have a client that has a fall risk, you want to look at physical therapy, occupational therapy. Those are 2 very important therapies that need to be involved when you have someone that is a fall risk. So if you have a client, they're falling often, the first thing I always ask people is, have you had physical therapy or occupational therapy in the past? Just to give you an idea of the difference between physical therapy and occupational therapy, physical therapy focuses on the strength and balance. Occupational therapy helps the client with their day-to-day, everyday tasks, their activities of daily living. They help them with mobility and navigating safely in getting in and out of the shower or things of that nature. That's occupational therapy. So if you have someone that is dealing with falls, reach out to home health providers. Most home health providers have physical therapy, occupational therapy that the client can receive in the home. Make sure you reach out and make those referrals. Chronic medical conditions. Maybe you have a diabetic that is really having challenges with their diabetes. They're in and out of the hospital. Reach out to skilled nursing. Reach out again to that home health provider. Get that skilled nursing in where they can support them on the skill side. And you're still there supporting them, making sure their diet, they're eating the foods that they need to. You're helping them as they're recovering from hospitalization or coming right out of therapy. Work together with these providers. Any mobility issues, you reach out to your durable medical equipment providers, your DME providers, walkers, canes, whatever they may need. A lot of times you can get that. Home health will assist you with that. But if for some reason that's not the case with your exact home health provider, you can reach out as well. And make those referrals. Make sure that you have a database of professionals that you can work with. And always remember, when you are thinking about making referrals, make sure you get consent from your families. Make sure you understand what their payer source is, if they have Medicaid, Medicare, private insurance. Make sure you provide a referral to providers that can accept their insurance. That's all a part of that care coordination. You don't want to waste time and make a referral to a provider that does not accept their payer source. So make sure you do your due diligence in that matter as well. But make those kind of connections. Once you get the green light from the family, from the client, make those referrals out. That is going to be such a major help to the families and such a safety for the client. So again, as I said, develop those professional relationships. Get out there, get to know people even before. If you're a new agency, you don't have any clients, make sure you go out there and you start making those connections, and you let them know, looking forward to working with you. Learn about these companies, okay? You also, another way of care coordination is to make sure you have tools on hand to provide care monitoring. So if you want to create certain programs or services to add and enhance what you provide as hands-on care, there are care monitoring tools such as the Electronic Caregiver, which is a full-service telehealth program for seniors, especially those with chronic health challenges. And again, it's something that provides care and value. And what's really nice is that it's free for home care providers to sign up and provide to their clients. It's a modest monthly fee for the client to pay for monitoring, but it provides extensive value. Number 5, and our final point, is going to be follow-up. So you get a client on board, or you initiate chronic care management with a current client. You want to make sure that you're monitoring your client, okay? You need to have a process in place for those that are considered medically fragile, which is a term often used by some states, and that's typically those with chronic health conditions, okay? You want to make sure that you are following a schedule. If you are in a regulated state, make sure you're following your state's minimum requirements, or sooner. You don't want to do later. So if you're in a state, like for instance, here in the state of Georgia, for personal care, it's 92 days. Some people do 90 days. Some people bump it up. If you have clients that are chronic, in and out of the hospital, deal with a lot of chronic conditions, you may want to see them sooner. You may want to have your nurse or your care coordinator go out and do assessments sooner versus the 90 days. So it's really up to you, but make sure you're at least following your state's minimum. You also want to make sure that you have a process in place if your client goes to the hospital if there's a change in condition, whatever is major and outside of the norm, that you are sending your team or you yourself are going out and providing follow-up. Follow-up is so important because something may happen in the home. They may have a fall that has now triggered a whole new host of issues. And you want to be able to capture that. And if you need to make modifications to the care plan, you want to do that sooner versus later. You don't want to wait to the next scheduled opportunity to go out and see this client where they have deficits in care now because they needed a change in care plan sooner and you waited too long. So if you have a you have a client that has sustained a fall, there's an incident in the home, there's changes in medical diagnosis, whatever the case may be, anything that could possibly change how you provide care, you want to make sure you're going out there, you're reviewing the assessment, you're reviewing that care plan. If the care plan needs to change, you get authorization from the family. You explain to them why you feel that the care plan needs to change so that they understand. Sometimes even though they have changes in their loved one's health or their own personal health, they don't see why the care plan needs to change. Have that client meeting, have that family meeting. Make sure you are keeping your families and your clients engaged in their own care. Have that meeting, explain to them what's going on. Let them know this is a part of our chronic care management program. We do frequent monitoring, and we modify the care plan as needed to make sure we keep you safe and keep you in the home. A lot of times families or clients are concerned about money, and I understand care plan changes, that changes the hourly rate, or that changes what I have to pay. And a good way to explain that to them is to say yes, validate their concerns. Yes, it does cause for, some additional charges, but it's still a lot less than you going to the hospital. Okay, it's still a lot less than you falling, having to get surgery, having to recover from the surgery, possible complications, acquiring illness while in the hospital, while in rehab. Paint that picture, and that's not to make them feel any kind of way or guilt trip them. That's just the facts. So if you ever encounter that, make sure you have that conversation with them so they can understand, why changing the care plan, staying on top of the care plan is important. And again, make sure that you are training your staff. Anything that changes within the care plan, make sure your care team, especially your caregivers that are going out into the home and providing the care, make sure that they know the updates. If they have any questions, that you can answer those questions before they go out into the home, okay? So those are 5 takeaways, 5 things that you can consider and start implementing in your business. Again, I can't stress enough how important private duty home care is to the basic needs of your clients. And that is really the areas that are missed when you're thinking about chronic care management. The basic needs. You have a diabetic that's going in and out of the hospital because I'm not eating the right things. You have someone with high blood pressure, hypertension. They're going in and out of the hospital because they're not taking their medications correctly. They're not remembering how to take their medications. They take it one day, they skip 2 days. So the medication doesn't have an opportunity to work inside of their body to help bring down the blood pressure and regulate everything. So now they're in and out of the hospital with diabetes, with high blood pressure. Now you're going to start looking at other organs being affected. And before you know it, you're going to have kidney issues, liver issues, whatever, may happen. So just by having a caregiver in the home, having your services in place to make sure mom or dad is eating the right foods, to make sure mom or dad is taking their medications, they have a reminder, they have someone there to help them remember. You are helping this individual stay out of the hospital. You are reducing the instance of them going to the hospital. You're there, you're engaged, you're communicating with the families, you're able to communicate any changes that you notice. Those are all crucial components to chronic care management. Okay? So, if you are interested in creating a chronic care management program for your home care agency, I want you to shoot me an email. My email is Dina, D-I-N-A, at mycareassurance.com. Or if you're following me on Facebook, you're welcome to send me a message and we can go over what you currently have in place, or if you don't have anything in place, to get you started in that process, because this is really where healthcare is. This is where senior care is. And for those of you all that are currently in business, you know the majority of your clientele are seniors. So it's very important to make sure that you have programs and systems in place that will provide efficient care and allow you not to be able to just be an agency that stands out differently from most agencies, but to provide that care and value. Okay, so that's going to be the end of today's information call. I hope you all found a great amount of value in it. And I'm going to go ahead and open up the call to anyone that has any questions about chronic care management.
Hi, Dina. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. So this is Leslie.
Hi.
Hi. So I'm hoping that a question gets generated out of what I'm getting ready to say.
Mm-hmm.
There is a question, but it's like all mixed up in my statement. So that's where I'm at. So, but I'll start with telling you that I appreciate your webinar today. Was very informative. You was like right on point with everything.
No, thank you.
With everything. So I was thinking what came about was a scenario that I have taking care of someone with Parkinson's.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't me sitting in the CEO's chair. That was me as a caregiver at the time.
Okay.
No one said the person had Parkinson's. I was afraid of clients who had Parkinson's. I didn't know why I was afraid until I was put in a position to take care of somebody with Parkinson's.
Mm-hmm.
And then, oh my God, what is going on with this person?
Yeah.
What is this? Why are they holding their breath?
Right.
And so what I did, I took care of that person at that very moment on a prayer.
Okay.
Okay. And because my son had, and he still has asthma, he's 17. He had asthma since he was 5. And I had to teach him how to exercise, do breathing exercises. So thankfully, I was used to doing that with my son. I had to do that with that Parkinson's person at that time. I literally went to the bathroom and cried when that person was okay and comfortable in his chair. I didn't cry for fear. I cried because how dare that agency put me in a position where I was ill-equipped
Right.
and that client could have been seriously hurt.
Right.
Yeah. And so what do you think about, and then, hearing your chronic care management program, what do you think about client specific training with the chronic care management program? Is it
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's
Okay.
what one of the things that I kind of touched on, making sure when you have that service plan or that care plan, however you call it, created, you educate your team. In general, they need to be receiving education on chronic conditions and the needs of seniors. But when you have someone, especially that is a complicated care, absolutely bring them in. Never be too anxious to staff a case. You know, even if you have to
Mhm.
let the family know, you know, as opposed to 12 o'clock, well, can we do 3 o'clock to start? I want to make sure, you know, we have everything in place for the safety of your loved one, whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
Absolutely sit down with that individual and explain to that caregiver, this is what is going on. Do
Okay.
you have any questions? If you have questions that come up, call me. That's going to do one of two things. It's going to, number one, equip your caregiver with the tools that they need. It's also going to help you with caregiver retention.
That's
Okay?
right.
When your caregivers feel equipped to handle the job, that you're not throwing surprises at them,
Mm-hmm.
that is when they're going to stay with you. When they feel
Yeah.
like in your scenario, you had no idea what to do, you had no idea what was going on. That didn't
Mm-hmm.
make you want to take more cases from this agency, I'm sure. You know, because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, what are you going to give me next? You
Yeah.
know, what do I expect next? So
Mm-hmm.
absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely recommend that. Yes.
And you're right. I'm glad you said that and mentioned about caregiver retention. That was a deal breaker for me.
Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was.
Oh, yeah. So
All
thank you
right.
for that, Dina.
You're so welcome. You're welcome. Any other questions? No? All right. Well, thank you all so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. And this recording will be available for anyone that is interested in getting the replay. We'll get that to you. You can just send me a message or an email, and I can get that recording to you. Otherwise, thank you so much again for joining, and have a wonderful day.
All right. Have a good day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Dina.
You're welcome.